Thank you.
Okay, well, for the record, well, we missed it on the recording. We did get approval of both the October 13th agenda and the July 13th minutes. For those that aren't familiar, there was no August meeting because we went on a field trip to the control center in Jamaica, and we don't meet in September because of the PCAC meeting. Alrighty, so the chair's report for October. The Long Island Railroad recently had a ceremony which Lisa and I attended to announce the completion of the rail portion of the third track project. I say the rail portion because there's still a considerable amount of related work to do, such as station improvements and completion, but the third track itself is now in service. The railroad also opened the westbound platform of the new Elmont station for events at the UBS Arena. The eastbound platform has been open for a couple of months already. Regular daily service won't begin until the new east side access schedules go into effect at the end of the year. Regarding the new east side access schedules, the Long Island Railroad has announced that they will be adjusting the Port Washington schedules, which were previously proposed to include 3 morning and 3 evening express trains. These changes were based on feedback from the public comment sessions which the railroad held. Problems continue to persist on the MTA website for riders trying to access schedules for the Long Island Railroad and Metro North. Riders needing this information for the Long Island Railroad should use http://LIRR42.info, as there are no problems with this site. We're still trying to figure out the problems on the original site. Some Androids don't have a problem with it. My Android does have a problem with it. We tried it with a couple of people at a board meeting last month, and there were people who had problems with it, people who didn't. So it's some sort of quirk in the technology. All right, moving on. I recently sent an email to Long Island Railroad President Kathy Rinaldi requesting that the railroad continue to pursue alternate means to develop battery-driven or even hydrogen-powered trains for diesel territory, and not to kick the can down the road and try and incorporate this technology into the M9A order. At the start of the next 2 short postseason, I sent an email along with Andrew and Randy to Jano, Kathy Rinaldi, Jamie Spori Springer, and Rich Davey to continue our pursuit of making Mets Wilkes Point accessible. We committed to working with them and all stakeholders, including the Mets, US Open, New York City Parks Department, elected officials, and whoever else is appropriate to make it happen. We saw just how successful these partnerships can be with completion of the westbound platform of the UBS Elmont station at no cost to the MTA. Last but not least, yesterday, Wednesday, October 12th, we interviewed a very viable candidate to fill the recently vacated PCAC Associate Director's position, with hopes of getting this position filled within the month. And that concludes my report. Anybody has any questions?
Technically, was I at the meeting at that gathering? At
What's
the
that? Yeah, well, you were working.
well, technically I was there.
Technically, yeah.
I concur that I did see him.
Larry was there. Larry was working, and he was probably there before us, and he was definitely there after us. So
Can I ask who the 917-544-4071 number is, please, for the attendance? An anonymous contributor. Okay, when you can send me a text, or you can send me something in the chat. *6 unmute, please, but please let me know so that we can keep an accurate attendance. Thank you.
alrighty, so then you're up, Lisa. Executive
Okay.
Director, Staff Update. And
Thank you.
communications and social media.
Kara will give the social media report, and Jerry, as always, will fill it in with his Facebook musings and wanderings. I did go to, thanks to Jerry, did go to Mineola and pick up keys to what can be our, we have an office in Mineola at the right behind the Theodore Roosevelt building in the
One West.
one west, thank you. And so we have office space there that is, was, because we hadn't used it really ever, was given to somebody else, but we have, we're able to claim some space there. I have it on the agenda to discuss what we need to do regarding open meetings. It's just a conversation at this point, but we'll have to, at some point, reinitiate convening in person, at least to come up with a, we need to develop a protocol for doing that. And I can either talk about that now, or we can talk about that down
Since
the road.
Since you started, you might as well just go on with it.
Okay, so when the governor allowed Executive Order 11 to expire regarding the state of emergency, with it, that permitted different open meetings laws to change, including the all remote meeting option. So that put a number of different organizations. Kara was actually the one who pointed it out, because her community board then was thrown into a bit of a kerfuffle or tizzy, for all the technical terms, trying to figure out what to do and still stay within the confines of the law, because with the budget last year, there was language that specified the in-person, this is the part that's relevant, the in-person participation requirements of the section shall not apply during a state disaster emergency declared by the governor, which is what we were under, or a local state of emergency declared by a chief executive, if the public body determines that the circumstances necessitating the emergency declaration would affect or impair the ability of the public body to hold an in-person meeting. Given the expiration of Executive Order 11, but given the continuing states of emergency at the city, county, and states levels, we have to come up with a, Kara, help me out with the terminology that is.
Resolution.
Thank you. Resolution that we do not need to determine right now, but that I want to open this up for this is for knowledge and to begin the conversation. This is going to have to be conversation that we have at all of the councils, and then we have at PCAC also, because each of the councils is going to need to make a resolution about how to address what the circumstances necessitating the emergency declaration affecting in-person meetings are, and whether or not they constitute enough of an emergency to allow us to continue to participate with a quorum remotely. Otherwise, we will need an in-person quorum in person.
Yeah.
An in-person quorum to have a meeting. And we can make determination in our resolution about whether people who are remote can still participate, even though they don't count toward the quorum. All that being said, we're still continuing to get information from our partners in good government, like Reinvent Albany, who's really on top of this, because if you think you're confused, we've been diving into this for a number of days and it's pretty circular. And they, Reinvent Albany is now, we reached out to them, we reached out to the Council on Open Government. We're reaching out to, Andrew reached out to, I think, the Borough President's office and Mayor's office also, because of the way it affects the community boards. The city's state of emergency still has dominance over the city's community boards, but we are a state agency, and so we need further guidance. And so we don't need to make a decision now, but I want to put this out there so that if we decide to meet in November, we will have the option of meeting in the office in Mineola. So that's how those two pieces of information tie in nicely.
Right,
Or perhaps Jamaica, or perhaps in Moynihan, whatever's most convenient for you all.
Okay, well, I think that would probably be best served by the people who we have here right now. Brian and Larry, because they're both in the vicinity of Mineola, maybe not in Mineola. So, you know, if that's what we need to do so that we get a quorum, you know, it'd be nice if they'd allow us to have a hybrid meeting. You know, I have no problem with, you know, reinstating and coming back in for, you know, in-person meetings, but it's, you would think they would allow the hybrid meetings to continue, particularly because it gives us an opportunity to bring in more people from the public.
So we can continue. So apparently there's no such thing as a hybrid meeting. That is a definition that doesn't exist. There's
Really?
either remote or in person. I got my hand slapped when I said, can we continue to have a hybrid meeting? And they said that doesn't exist.
Can two locations meet
Yes,
in person? Like, can there be a meeting of a group of us in Mineola and a group of us at Jamaica or Moynihan, and we remotely connect? Is that considered remote or in person, or is that hybrid?
that is permissible. That is in person,
Really?
as long as they're both open to the public.
Okay.
Yes, that's a great point.
I-
Thank you.
Jerry brought up, I mean, I'm close to Mineola, so I don't mind going there. That's probably the most convenient for me. But if it was Jamaica, and that's convenient for more, I'm open to that. But if we could
And
do two locations, I think that could probably solve.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
So how does that, if I can answer the question, how does that work for someone that's at home?
They could still participate. It would
Okay.
need to be a resolution. Each council would
Okay.
make their own resolution, and then PCAC would make the fourth resolution, so that we'd have
Okay.
4 separate resolutions about operations. So
Terrific.
we could say that as long as there's a quorum, an in-person quorum present, that the person participating remotely can participate, it doesn't count toward the quorum. Or if there are extenuating circumstances that are extraordinary circumstances that may permit a member to participate remotely can include disability, illness, caregiving responsibilities, or any other significant or unexpected factor or event which precludes the member's physical attendance at such meeting. But these terms need to be laid out in our resolution. So
Or being on vacation or being in Florida doesn't count.
Or being at work, unfortunately.
No, we did say, you know, several people have not returned to office because their offices no longer exist, or
Okay.
they don't, you know, they don't work in a location, or that they said that a member's ability to travel to a meeting doesn't rise to that level.
Okay.
The
I think the big
people that just
question
need to
now
be in
is-
person are the 5 members, though, right? Like, to get the quorum.
Correct.
3 of the 5. Yeah.
Three of the 5 at this
Right.
point.
I'm saying counting from
Yeah.
within 5 members. I mean,
Yes.
Alrighty,
So we'll continue to be continued. We're going to find out more information.
that
And
could help with
we will-
PCAC meetings too, because if we can have, like, say, our group met at Mineola or somewhere, we could remote in to the larger group or other groups that are in person for the PCA meeting. So that's always been a opportunity for me, and I know others, is because of the timing of that traveling
Yep.
to there. But
Mhm.
if there was a more local in-person office option for us, it could actually give us better in-person attendance.
Yep, absolutely. That would be great. And similarly, if we were able to do have a third location,
Right.
at Gray Bar or somewhere in Metro North territory, that worked the best for MNRCC. So we will, you know, we're hopeful that there will be more clarity on this from people who are pursuing it with the governor's office, because it's very challenging for, we had 5 exchanges, I'd say, with the Committee on Open Government, and each one made it more confusing. So
Just going back to the space at One West and not regarding meetings and quorums
Yes.
and all this. You said we got another space. How do we get access to it? Who has access to it?
Right, so right now, it looks like, it looks like an apartment in a squatter building on the Lower East Side. Except it's pink, so it's pretty. I went to see it. They are going to paint it. They're basically concrete floors, so they need to put some flooring in. They want to paint it. There's no furniture in it at the moment. I will follow up with the architect and the head of the service. I don't know if it's custodial or what the other service is that oversees the architect people. I told them that mid-November would be the time that we would want to come in for a meeting. We have to bring our own internet, which is fine because we have
I
that
was gonna ask
ability.
that, yeah.
Yeah. We can't go through their servers. So we have
In a
private
hotspot or
Wi-Fi.
something.
So we would have to do that.
I still wonder what happened to all the stuff that was in the other office, all the pictures and all the stuff we framed, I framed.
Well, and I will just say that from everything I know, the only from what I have been told, the only things that were in there were for a photo op, and then they were removed. That's
No.
what I was told.
No,
But
they
We even
weren't.
had the historical group that was there and they gave us a couple items. I remember that we put.
Yeah, there was some historical stuff there. That might have been removed, but then there was a bunch of stuff because I went to Target and bought a dozen frames and we framed stuff for the opening show, but they were still framed. I don't remember what they were or where they went.
I don't know if Mark may have taken some. I don't know. 'Cause,
That
I
is
mean, this is
something
well
like,
before my time.
as they say,
Yeah.
it's going to be taken to his grave, so we'll never
Yeah.
know.
Right. Right, Brian, I believe you have a ID to access the building.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I don't know if it's their current version or something, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, you have, okay. We can always try and get that updated as needed
It
too.
looks like, it looks like an employee's ID, Brian.
yeah, that's what I
Because
had.
when I saw the one they gave me, it was like, it looked like you're an employee of Nassau County.
Yeah, and it says, I think consultant or contractor on it or something.
Actually, ours say commuter council on them.
Let me
Yeah.
see.
Lise, can you mail mine to me or?
Mine says my name and then it says consultant to the MTA.
Oh, all right.
Jess, you're on mute, but yours says PCA, ours says PCAC.
Can you mail mine to me, Lisa? If you don't
I
mind?
don't know if we're allowed to do that.
Oh,
We'll see.
okay,
Because that's why I had to physically go
okay.
and get them since February.
They
Oh,
didn't
and
want
Jerry
it-
says LIR Commuter Council.
Yeah, they didn't want us to mail it because if it gets lost, they feel that someone could put a picture
Yeah.
on it, access
All right,
to.
that's fair
It's only a
enough.
physical ID though. It doesn't act as like a door badge type thing, right? Like a RFID reader or anything. It's just a,
I don't know, because it came from IT. So it didn't come from building security, so that, because everything is, tap and go.
Is
'Cause
my
it used
picture
to-
on mine or?
it
Yeah.
used to work at
Where'd
the
it come
front
from?
door to
We
open the
used
front
your,
door.
Yeah,
the
you're
picture
from the website.
Ah, oh, the good looking
We-
one. Okay.
The
When
ID
we were
used
there,
to- The ID used to open up, used to go in the back door at One West. It would open up that door because it was a badge reader. But then to get into our space, you needed a physical key.
Well, we were gonna give us a physical key, but we don't, we were given 337 and now we're in 333. Or we
You
will
could
be.
send it by FedEx. It would pretty much guarantee that it got there without. Because it would have to be signed for.
Only as long as somebody's home. I mean, there's a lot of instances of people, porch.
All right, Lisa, I'm not running there tomorrow. We'll hook up at some point.
yeah, we'll work it out.
Yeah.
And we'll
And-
get Brian his
Yeah.
if he needs it.
And Ron, as to your point, I think that what we have learned is in fact that public participation does certainly increase with a remote and in-person mix, which we all know that there is something called hybrid. So that something like that continues. And I think that it's proved that it is a successful way of engaging people. So as long as there's interweb, then we'll continue to do that.
I hope
As
so.
long as that's part of the resolution that the
Yeah,
council
well-
makes.
Well, Lisa, do we have to, is this one of those deals where we have to have the resolution one meeting and then have the vote second meeting, or can we have the resolution and the vote at the same time?
We can have the resolution and the vote. We're supposed to have a public hearing. I don't think that we need that. What we can do is draft something based on these comments that this conversation.
That
And
was gonna be
share
my
it.
suggestion, if you could draft something, circulate it amongst the council members in an email, and then we can have all our ducks in a row, so that when
Yeah.
we have our next meeting in November, we just put it out here, you know, just read it once, this is the resolution, and do we have an agreement? And then boom.
And
Make
we
it
can even
official.
post it in advance.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Let anybody have comments who wants to submit them.
Yep, that's fine. And then if we have to tweak it at the meeting itself, you know.
Yep.
We can say, all right, the resolution's been approved with the addition of this sentence or the deletion of this sentence or whatever.
Yes.
Alrighty,
Okay, great, thank you.
I only can see like 4 people online. Is Hector here yet, or?
Hector is here. Do you want Kara to give a quick update on the
Oh, yeah,
Or do you
no,
want
that's
Hector
fine.
to
I'm
go?
sorry. I didn't mean to overrush. It just,
That's okay.
yeah, go ahead, Kara.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, not too much. There have been a few major topics, I'd say, since the last time we met. The East Side Access Service Plans have still been a topic of conversation. Port Washington riders are definitely happy about the express service being restored if they're from Port Washington, but a lot of Queens riders have expressed that they're disappointed about losing some of their service because those trains are now going to bypass a lot of the Queens stations. Next topic is generally
Yeah, Mike.
higher ridership,
What?
which is good overall. We're glad that ridership is coming back, but that's leading to crowding on some rush hour trains, specifically on the Babylon branch, and I'm sure on other rush hour, both morning and PM trains. There was also a topic brought up to the Long Island Railroad on Twitter about a senior was asking why the senior fare did not apply during the morning rush hour, and was just saying that it really should apply, which I think is a topic that we should talk about eventually. And then also just general issues with the train time app. The Twitter account for the Long Island Railroad has been very responsive in helping people with issues when they do come up. And lastly, we got a call from a rider from Ronkonkoma about the parking lot, the northwestmost parking lot in the Ronkonkoma station is unpaved and it's unmarked. And so there have been some issues with crowding in the parking lot. And she was essentially asking how we can figure out who controls that land and how to get that paved. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Actually, we spoke to Hector about that, and the property belongs to the Long Island Railroad, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's an official parking lot, which is why it's not paved, why it's not striped, and why it doesn't get snow removed in the wintertime. You know, what we may want to talk about what we can do to see if we can get the railroad to make that an official lot and to do the improvements necessary, but of course, there's budgetary constraints.
We have a beautiful park. We have a beautiful garage there with plenty of capacity where people can use.
You're a good salesman, Hector.
but they have to pay for it, right?
Yes.
Alrighty, on the social media, a couple of things that, we've been picking up. One, our good friends at Passengers United are having a Zoom meeting tonight regarding the, I believe they call it Queensway. It's
Queens
what
Link.
they want, what
So
they
the-
want to do.
Yeah,
The old Rockaway Beach branch, and that's all I know. I saw a posting for it, and if anybody's interested, they could probably go on their website, and I think it's 7:30 tonight or 7:30, something like that.
So we're Queens Link will be presenting at the New York City Transit Riders Council meeting, so you don't have to go to Passengers United, you can go to TRC.
Sounds good to me. All righty. What else do we have on there? Okay, this actually, Hector, this is one maybe you can help us with. We got something today. They were rather skeptical about a service announcement or service notice. One of the Port Jefferson trains was supposedly running 10 to 15 minutes late because of high passenger volume. I mean, that's something you'll see on a Montauk train on a Friday night in the summer. It's not something you normally see on a Port Jefferson train on a Wednesday or a Thursday morning in the fall. Do you know anything about that, or it just seemed like an odd reason for the train to be delayed?
You know, I didn't hear about it, but I wasn't looking for it.
It was
Okay.
Larry sent it, the 6:45 a.m. train from Port Jeff due to Long Island City at 8:39. It's operating 10 to 15 minutes late due to high volume of customers traveling.
Yeah, we just found out about this, a few hours ago. Otherwise, we would have given you the heads up on it.
Was it
Unfortunately,
short cars?
it was posted on the Fail Road Facebook
Yeah.
group.
Was it short cars?
I guess that's something Hector can look into for us. That's
I mean,
a good possibility, if it was normally a 6-car train that ran as a 4, then you get everybody packed in like sardines. Yeah, that could be a possibility.
I just look at the incidents from this. We get like an internal text from all the incidents. I don't see anything on a Port Jefferson brand from this morning in terms of an alert that goes out to employees about incidents.
Christopher put in the chat that it happened last Monday, which
Oh,
would have been
last
the
Monday.
longest
Monday,
day.
Was it
that
last
long ago?
Monday?
Oh, okay.
Is that when it happened, Chris?
Yeah, what happened was, as I was heading up there to the event, technically the Port Jefferson train was supposed to go in front of us. It didn't leave because the whole platform was full, maxed up. It was so crowded, I barely can move to near track 8 because the Huntington train is supposed to come right behind him like 5 minutes. Once that diesel train came in, everyone was trying to get on, and then they said, this train's going to be held momentarily, and they have a track change for the Huntington. We had to come into track 7. So everyone's trains that was coming behind after the Port Jefferson was delayed because of that train. And I'm hearing that it's really crowded at even 8:30 in the morning. Very crowded. I mean, it's like, why are they coming in with 4 cars when people are going towards Port Jefferson? I have no idea.
All
Well,
right.
I
if it's
thought there was a
westbound,
problem.
if it's westbound, it's coming to Long Island City.
East.
It said
Was
the one that I'm looking at says delays westbound from Port Jeff due LIC.
And now Kara just posted something about this morning. What did you see, Kara?
It's the same one that Larry had sent. It is posted on the Long Island Railroad Twitter from this morning at about 8:30 a.m.
Oh, okay.
And then they also had the Makanga train making additional stops also that I saw on the app.
All right. All right, so anything else with social media, Kara, or
No, thank
DC,
you.
you good on your end?
What am I in? We also interviewed some interns that we're looking to bring on. So we're still sorting through them. We
Okay,
will keep
great,
you posted.
perfect.
Jerry, if I could, and
Yeah.
you might tell me to park and lock this to new business, but it has to do with not social media, but media coverage. I know I brought it up a few weeks ago, or maybe in our last meeting when we met in person. This Long Island Railroad commuter campaign continues to make statements, and I don't know if it's leading to confusion with statements that are coming from us or by us. So I don't know what your thought on it is on it. It's this Peter Haynes, a former
Yeah,
Long
he's the
Island
one.
Railroad employee. He's been quoted by the Times. He's been quoted by News 12. He's been quoted by Newsday. Post stuff on different social media sites as well. But using that LIRRCC, I think could be leading to confusion about statements being made by us.
And he's been pretty much, my understanding, he's pretty much a one-man show. I don't know of anybody else who's associated with that organization or whatever.
The media picks him up though, even if he's only one person, he's making,
Yeah, I mean,
Lost.
that's why I try and respond to News 12 whenever they call me. You know, not that I want to be a media hog or anything like that, but just if I don't respond to them, then they'll have to call him. He's like the next person on their Rolodex. So, yeah, the name is, and I think it was intentional. I don't know when they actually started. He's been around for as long as I can remember, and I think the name being close to ours, I think that was intentional. So I don't know what we can do about it.
yeah.
You don't have a lawyer to send them a cease and desist order.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's that extreme. It did cross my mind.
Yeah,
like,
no,
should their name be different? Should it not use the same acronym as us? Is it misleading? I think, you know, I wouldn't want him to make a statement and it's believed to be on behalf of us.
yeah, no, I understand that, and I feel the same way, but it's just,
Has
Some
anyone
way we
reached out
can-
to contact him? Maybe
So I'm looking
PTAC
on,
can lean
I'm
in.
looking on Google and I don't even see. They're not even popping up.
If you Google long LIRR commuter campaign, but you got to put commuter campaign in quotes. This way it links the two words together.
okay.
You get a lot.
All right, you know what? We'll look into that.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Or maybe reach out to him and just say, hey, what's your interest? What are you advocating for? I mean, I don't know. Does he want to be a member of our group if he, I don't know what his views are or whatever, but you know, like,
We
why is
need
he reinventing another group?
and he's been around for, I mean, literally 10
Well-
years at least, probably longer.
To be honest with you, I don't think he's a group. He might just be a him.
I think it is a him, to be honest with you.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
believe- But you know what? If we reach out to him, Lisa, maybe we can ask him if he wants to be on the council, since we need a Suffolk member.
I found his name.
Yeah, Peter Haynes.
Yeah, he's a
H-A-Y-N-E-S.
former
Yeah,
employee.
Peter
of American-
Haynes. He's the president of the commuter campaign.
Yeah,
Former LIRR.
President,
information
vice president,
technology official.
Committee member.
treasurer, yep.
I don't even see a website for them.
Sergeant at Arms.
Yeah, well, you know what? We'll look into that and see what we can find out, and we'll report back at the next meeting.
Yeah, he has been getting a lot of press.
I didn't realize he's gotten that much press. I just, you know, I've seen him maybe once or twice in the last few months, but that's, then again, like I don't read the Times, so I don't, you know, the Times goes in for quotes.
Well, it was like, what was that other guy's name that kept appearing all over every newspaper that was on? I forgot his name. Senior moment.
Oh, well, if you think of it, we'll come back to it. All right, it's shortly after
Charlton.
5. So,
Charlton.
oh no, that's Passengers United. That's a
Yeah.
different, yeah. All righty, so we'll go down to Hector for Hector's report. Hector, you there? Step away from the room.
I'm here.
Yeah, there he is.
Oh, I gotta give an update. How's everybody doing?
We're doing good.
Ridership. We're like fluctuating between 50 and like 65% of pre-COVID levels. So it's, you know, it's been a slight uptick this fall. In terms of track work, we have a big outage coming up on the weekend, actually next weekend. There's some work on we're working on a grade crossing in the Montauk branch. So it's going to be busing between Babylon and Patchogue next weekend. Actually, the call I just got distracted on is apparently that's also the Suffolk County Marathon on Sunday. So now we got to figure out, make sure our buses can get by the gridlock in Babylon Village during that time. And then at the end of the month, we have a big outage mainline outage, October 29th and 30th. This is for the Queens interlocking cutover. That will give us full access to the Elmont station, because currently the westbound Hempstead branch trains cannot stop at the new Elmont station, the north platform. But after this work is completed, then that will, that'll be fully operational. And in November, we have 2 weekends in November where on a Port Washington branch, you guys, I don't know if you remember the Great Neck Pocket Track, we extended it. So
Yeah.
now that's going to be cut over to become operational. All the work is done, so that weekend we're going to make that operational. And then on the Hempstead branch, on October 15th, 16th, this weekend, we're doing concrete tie work on the Hempstead branch. And in terms of the bike and scooter policy, that's being finalized. So I have nothing to report, but it looks like that it's being finalized. So you guys will hear about that soon. And I think, Lisa, I think you were told that they're going to let you know before it is public. So
Yeah, so I was just gonna ask if we can see it before it's,
Were we able to give feedback or suggestions before they started drafting it?
I'm not part of they. I asked for them for an update, but so I know they did tell me that they're going to share it with you before it's public.
So I'll definitely bring it up at the next board. If it hasn't been made public or at least given to us before the next board meeting, I'll bring that up at the committee meeting to see where they're at. Because I have asked for it before and they said that they're working on it. In fact, I even spoke to the two safety ladies for Metro North and for Long Island Railroad, because New York Lifesavers has already gotten posters made about, don't ride your bike on a platform, stuff like that. It's like, when can we roll these out? And they said, well, we can't do anything until the board, finalizes a policy on it. So I said, all right. So we'll see where that goes. Deborah, you had a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Jerry. When it comes to, when you have the buses taking over because they're doing track work, are those buses accessible? Because I have friends who live out there and they said they couldn't get on the bus because it wasn't accessible. What kind of buses are used, please?
So we always try to use coach buses that are accessible. There are some instances where we can't get them and then we have to use school buses, but in those instances, we have to get a van that we can use for people that may need it.
Okay, that's good to know. And in reference with the scooter and the bikes, they're not going to take precedence over the area where persons with disabilities have to sit, because they can get very mean and vicious to us. Thank God the conductors have defended us and have told them, no, they have the priority, they need to sit. But will they be allowed to do that to us?
we don't know. We haven't seen it
Policy is
yet.
still being formulated, so.
Right. Do you need letters or a statement from people like myself who I do travel out in Long Island? And when I go on with Long Island Cares, they always make sure to put me in the seats, the area where I can sit, that's truly accessible.
Well,
So,
let's see what it looks like first, because I think
Okay.
everybody here has something that, we've been talking about this for quite a while. And I think that there's a lot of thoughts that we would like to share, and hopefully before anything becomes finalized, hopefully they'll be draft and we'll get to have the
Deborah, what I
opportunity to
would
see them.
suggest,
Yes.
Deborah, what I would suggest is that since this is coming down the road, you and Chris are both very involved. People at the MTA know who you are.
mhm.
So I would reach out to your contacts there and say, hey, are we gonna have any input to this? And let's see what they say. And you also should get it before it goes public.
Yeah, I would.
You should get, I think you and Chris should, because of the organizations that you're all involved with, you
Yeah.
should get a draft of it, just like we're gonna request a draft of it, so that we can, have some input before it becomes final.
Because I'm very willing to help and work with everybody, because I want to make sure that it works for both. But the other thing I just wanted to bring up very quick point, the state O agencies like OPWDD, OMH, OASIS, they're having the issue too with with the meetings about that they want us in person. But when it comes to the statewide, because we're spread across the state, we're really trying to push back to that that even if we're home, that we are allowed to be considered part of the quorum. So I will let you know how we're going, because we're going through intense negotiations too. So whatever I find out from legal or anything, I will be very happy to share, because I like better when we can do it both ways. Because especially like when you have a disability and you can't get out because of the weather, or you're a parent, you have a child that you must be there with the child. I think they need to be more open-minded, because then they complain, oh, we don't get enough members. So I want you to know that the OPWDD statewide family support, but we also have a second statewide part. It's the Developmental Disability Advisory Council is on the same page with us too. So we're fighting very hard, and we've already talked to a lot of the state officials. So we will let you know how it goes for us.
Okay, very good. And the other thing is, we do have a connection with the governor's office through our Suffolk County representative. And I just, within the last couple of days, made a connection through LinkedIn with the Nassau County representative for Governor Hochul's office.
Great.
So, once we know exactly what we're looking for as far as that's concerned, maybe we can reach out to the governor's office and, express to them exactly what we're looking for as far as the meeting. Because again, it's not just the commuter council, it's not just PCAC, it's a whole bunch of organizations,
Yeah.
community boards. So everybody has a similar issue. So maybe we can come up with something, that will benefit everybody.
My community board is being allowed to do virtual because we still can't find a meeting space. We used to do it at Kingsborough Community College, and they will not let us meet in person. So, well,
Yeah,
we've been
the
given
city still has the state of emergencies
yes.
that preclude
Right.
people from meeting in public, but that
Yeah.
state doesn't have the same one.
But yes, we know that's the problem.
Yeah.
But once we know anything, I will be very happy to share. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate that. You let me
You
speak.
got it. Okay, so we got full ridership and schedule, electric bike and scooter enforcement. How's Penn Station looking, Hector?
It looks nice.
I meant schedule wise.
You knew you walked into that one.
Yeah, yeah.
No, so
Better.
I mean, the work on, the raising the ceiling and widening that corridor, they're opening up pieces of it as they move along, and it's, we're hoping to complete that early next year, to complete that, that work. And I think,
Okay.
I don't know if you probably heard, I think last month they awarded a contract to start the design of the next phase of this, to kind of expand the existing pen to, the stuff, the part of pen that's not touched, to move on to that part and redesign that to make it more like
Okay.
Moynihan.
Okay, great.
I have an
Inside
update.
access.
Yeah, I have an update on, so I think you've heard, we're doing we're getting all the crews training in there. We're also doing this month and next month some live safety and security drills. Like, we're doing some live evacuation exercise with first responders next weekend on the next Sunday, the 23rd, between MTA folks, MTA PD, Lower Railroad, Metro North, and FDNY. They're doing like a tunnel evacuation drill next Sunday to test that out. And we're also doing, we're bringing in like 8 trains simultaneously into Grand Central to kind of test out the service plan, and also test out that everything works, and that our planning assumptions for the scheduling and everything is working, getting people to get trains to operate in traffic and how to control everything.
I just sent some pictures to Jess, Kara, and Lisa that I took this week and previous week of Penn Station East End, if you want to share it with them. Those who can't get there can see it.
And then we also have some other exercises within the terminal with like employees. First is going to be with employees, and then later with like friends and families, like to kind of get a lot of people in there and like test like come up with an emergency and test out how do you evacuate people? How do you deal with a medical emergency? Kind of work out the kinks to make sure we're ready to deal with the public down there.
Well, we're friends and family.
Yeah.
Actually, we could do that on Halloween and everybody could be all bandaged up and be like
You know, have
victims.
you ever seen, Lisa, have you guys ever seen these kind of drills?
Yeah.
They actually have people bandaged up, laying on stretchers, and you wear a tag on your chest to say what your problem is, to see how people respond. It's actually pretty cool and fun.
And here we want to test out all the signage and make sure the exits and entrances and everything makes sense that, you're sending somebody, meet us here or do this, and then make sure that it works.
I think we'd definitely be interested in participating in that part of it for sure.
Sure, I'd volunteer, let me know.
There you go.
I volunteer to be
he
a person with
volunteered.
disabilities because I have a walker and a wheelchair, so you could pick these devices you want me to use.
So there you have it, Hector. If you need some volunteers, you know where to find them. Just a quick double back to the Penn Station update, because I think Ron asked a question about the men's rooms being repaired or renovated or whatever. I would imagine that goes for the ladies' room as well.
Yeah, I have to find out. I'm not in touch with that, but I'll find out.
Yeah, Hector, I was there some weeks ago, and to say that it was awful, the men's room there doesn't even come close. I mean, it's half the toilets were broken, half the sinks were broken, most soap dispensers were broken. It's, and there was a guy who was apparently the quote unquote cleaner, just kind of hanging around, not doing anything. Not good.
The hand dryers work real good. They'll blow the skin right off your hand if you hold it close enough.
Actually, I do have an update. About a month ago, I got a complaint about the blowers not working in the bathroom, and then the answer I got was, I guess they're getting ready to do some work in the bathroom there. So it looks like they are going to do some work at the bathroom.
I hope they maintain it once they have, and they do some occasional cleaning and filling.
All right.
Thanks.
Alrighty.
Excuse me, Jerry, I have a question for Hector.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I had the hand, I was trying to use the
Yeah, I
hand.
can only see like 4 people, so if
Sorry.
you're gonna have to pick up if you see somebody's hand up, let me know. Okay.
Okay.
ahead, Chris.
Hector, just to add one thing, Q and I, after we left from you guys on that Monday event, we went to Penn Station. The one big difference that we like to see was the signs and the lighting was much more brighter. Nice to see we can get to our destination from, let's say, if we're coming off the train to the 2 and 3 train. The only thing is glad to see there's humongous temporary large signs, but Hector, you definitely need a Long Island Care temporary sign to be there at Penn Station, because once you guys still have them there, their signs are gone. And I don't know if they were there or someone's been taking them down, but I think you need to check that out just to make sure, because I just got a text message, and I'm not saying the person's name, but that's also one concern on that as well. And as I'm looking also for the Port Jefferson train right now, it has 4 cars going in right now, and it doesn't look good, and it's getting a full train. So, and I have the app is working fine with me, Jerry. Thank you.
Okay. Alrighty, so I think that brings us down to the 3rd track update. Hector?
Yes, like as you mentioned earlier, the track part of it is operational. There's still some, Westbury and Mineola stations, they still have a lot of work left. We're trying to get that done by the end of the year. But all the other work, the 3TC is going to still be on board through like the spring. So spring, early summer, they'll still be on board. So we'll still be, we're still wrapping everything up and cleaning up the areas.
Alrighty. I know this sounds silly, but there's a reason for my question. Come springtime, you'll be doing some like landscaping and stuff in certain stations, and whatever. The reason I brought that up is one of our favorite organizations skewered you guys on social media about the Elmont station, about, oh my God, this place, they did a walking tour, look at how it looks. It's like, I'm like, you guys serious? They just finished it, they got tons of work to do. And you guys are getting all upset about this, and it's just like, so again, I try not to respond to those kind of things, but it's, I just want to let you know that there's a faction out there that looking for any little thing to make a problem.
Oh, it was, I missed, what was the complaint about Elmont Station?
Oh, that you think they could have put some shrubberies or something and make it look a little bit nicer. It looks like crap. I gotta see if I'm a bit of a technosaur. I'm gonna see if there's some way that I can forward that to you, just so you know. I mean, I didn't see anything terrible about it, but like I said, there's certain groups out there that just look to stir the pot.
So we're terrible landscapers. We have trouble maintaining what we have, and we have to clear, and then, so. Like,
Yeah, no, I just.
But in terms of
I
third,
understand that.
in terms of third track, wherever we're, like in these villages where we are planting, most of the plantings we're doing are on their property, so that, they're gonna have to maintain most of that.
Okay.
Whatever we
Listen,
put on our
people-
property is low maintenance.
People, it's one of the things I found out with social media is there are quite a few legitimate, concerns and stuff, but 80% of it, 85% of it is just stuff like you wouldn't believe. There was actually a guy who questioned why we even built the Elmont station. He had an aerial view. He showed a circumference. He says the Queens Village station is actually the same distance from the arena as the station we just built. Of course, there's all sorts of buildings and roads and stuff between Queens Village station and but this was something that this guy was trying to make an issue of, and it's like, all right, if you're looking at it from space, yeah, but realistically, it's, I don't know. I just wanted to make you aware of it. That's all. I'm not registering a complaint, that's for sure.
It looked to me like it's not quite done yet.
Yeah,
But you mean, you talking about the north side?
Yeah.
So so the story of the north side was, before we put a station there, that was just like an empty field where like there was always dumping. It was a neglected field owned by city parks. And it was just, just a field with, and then, so we had to get an easement for construction to take over that property. So it was a crime of opportunity for New York State Parks. They're like, the way the agreement with them is, the easement they gave us for construction, it's gonna last into perpetuity because they don't want it back. So we can't give it back. So we're gonna have to make it officially ours. But then, so it's our property. So instead of we didn't want to put back an open field that we're gonna have complaints from the community about dumping, and so that's why we secured it. We put ballast in there. We'll use it for our vehicles or whatever work we're doing, or during events we can park there. But we just secured it, made it look presentable, and then low maintenance, so we don't have to, so that's the logic behind it.
No, listen, in fairness to you guys, I know out by me, a couple of years ago, I guess you had some complaints in Bayport when you're using the old Bayport or Blue Point station.
Yep.
And you guys did a nice job with that. It looks fine now, but I could see where the neighbors might have complained. And I'm sure you're gonna do the same thing at Elmont. Just got a couple of quickies for you, and then I think we had somebody from the public had a couple of questions for you. But one thing, do you know, are they gonna have the coat drive with New York Cares again this year? I know with all the work going on at Penn Station, it doesn't seem like it.
Because that was always, MTPD always did that, so I don't know if they're doing it again, but.
Okay, because I remember years ago, I got invited to, they did a photo op and I gave them a coat, and somebody else gave them, the railroad president gave them a coat or something like that, and they took a photo. And then they usually had a table sit up there every morning during the morning rush. So it's just,
the last few years they've been doing it, I think it's been more of an employee event. So I know we've had it here in Jamaica and other employee areas, and it's been by, I think MTPD has sponsored it, but I don't know, we
Okay.
haven't, I don't think we've done a public thing in a while.
Okay. And then the other thing that came up is, it's been a concern of commuters for a while, but I don't know if there's anything that can possibly be done. The windows on the trains, particularly like on the Babylon branch, the south side of it, after a number of years, they get cloudy. You can't even see through them. The reason this comes up now is because Jersey Transit just announced that they're going to spend $8 million replacing windows on their trains that become too cloudy for people to look through. With the new procurement on the M9s, are they getting the same glass that we had on the M7s, or is there any new technology where these things can last a little longer before they, before they cloud over?
I remember when I was on that subgroup or whatever they put us on to pick out the colors and all stuff like that. That question came up.
The focus group.
Yeah, the focus group. That question
Yeah.
came up because it was one of the complaints about could this happen in the future? And they said I think it was 3M makes that glass, but they were making it differently. This way that didn't happen, but they had no proof of concept because it's not like they've been making whatever the new glass is that's on the M9s for the past 15 years for them to validate that it won't happen. But through their testing and stuff, they were told that the vendor, and I believe it was 3M, that it would not occur again.
And I think, Lisa, did Phil mention something to you about that at one time?
He mentioned something to Andrew, I think, that they
Andrew,
were
okay,
gonna do
Andrew,
that. Not to me, but I think that was, they were looking at new technology. But he also said that platform F would never be used.
Yeah, I was gonna say the vendor and they may have told us it won't happen, but we won't know until it does happen.
I guess we're just gonna have to wait a few years and see what happens.
I wonder what
Alrighty,
makes it
well-
do that.
Oh, no, if you read the article, about the Jersey Transit spending the 8 million, they explain to you as well as I could about why that happens.
I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it from me to, Larry, do you have any questions for Hector?
No,
Brian, do you have any questions for Hector?
No.
Lisa, you or staff have any questions for Hector?
No.
no, we gotta come up with something for him and making it too easy for him.
No. There was a gentleman from the public that submitted a couple of questions, so.
Yes.
But before we have anybody from the outside, we want to be sure that all council
Chris's hand
members.
is up, Jerry.
What's that?
Chris's hand is up.
Oh, okay, Chris.
I waited patiently because I know by law the exec members have to go first, only fair.
Okay,
I also want to back Jerry up on that as well, because this has been brought up months already with some of the glass on the trains that are not being cleaned, because there are times you can't barely see anything if some people want to sit near the glass on the train. So is there going to be any somehow getting them a little more cleaner on this? And second thing is, Hector, I brought this up to you with Carmel Q because we were on the train. We've been seeing bathrooms on the train being destroyed on that as well. And the concern is it's not just on one branch. I'm going to say all branches, and not on the diesel turf yet, because I can't say if it's there or not. I have not been on the diesel train for at least a month. But the electric trains on the M7s and M9s have been kind of being destroyed, the bathrooms. And for me to say M9, I'm not happy with someone's messing with the new train.
Do you mean destroyed, like physically, like mechanically destroyed, or do you mean environmentally destroyed with?
Either way you're saying it, Hector, it's both directions, from the toilet
That's a polite
seat
way
to
of
the
putting it,
sink.
Both, Hector. It's Hector, the toilet seats were pulled off.
Okay.
That's not fun. How's the
No, that's
female
physically
supposed to
destroyed.
get in there
Okay.
and do it?
No.
That's destroyed. It's funny, but yet it's not when you have to go and you
Yeah.
go in there and it's like, oh God, what am I going to do?
But
now?
I'm gonna say this, there was one train, didn't have a toilet seat, and it looked like somebody ripped it apart.
Wow.
I
So,
saw it too with Q. Very upsetting. It was like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
yeah. So we
Did
definitely,
you report it to the conductor?
yes. And took a picture and put it into the complaint log. It's in my log system.
Yeah.
So it was, and I just wanted to bring it up now because it's still going in effect, but I have mentioned this to everyone. Please put it into the MSA complaint so you have a reference number. So my reference number is still open. So I have not got an answer really back. And I'm not making it like it's a priority, but is a safety concern for any person with a disability or senior on that as well.
All right.
If you keep me, you keep me out, you keep me on long enough, I start making jokes, so it's not my fault.
Yeah. All right, well, we got,
That's fine. That's why you get an Oscar for that.
all right, so we got Chris. Lisa, is that gentleman on, the one who wanted to ask
Yes.
those questions, to submit those questions?
Yes, Mr. Stewart? Yes, sir.
Hi, I think that the office already forwarded my questions to Hector, so if he has them, he can just talk to them.
We haven't shared them with the other members, though, so if you want to paraphrase,
Okay, so I asked,
Hector.
that's fine. I asked two questions. The first is about my impression that the railroad overly buffers the schedule in order to improve the apparent on-time performance, at least on the Montauk branch, and consequently, by my calculation, the portion of the trip just between Babylon and Montauk takes about 24 minutes longer than it has to if there weren't buffering. I could explain, how I basically what I did is I looked at the mileage between stations. I looked at the time on the schedule. I credited 90 seconds for the train decelerating, accelerating, and holding at the station. And then I calculated the speed, and I got speeds as low as something like 36 miles an hour, which is actually faster than the train sometimes feels like it's going. So and this has been the way the schedule has been for at least 20 years, the 20 years I've been taking it. So I appreciate that there's a need to buffer a schedule to some extent, but if you're buffering it to the degree where it's taking 26 extra minutes on that run alone, it seems like a disservice to passengers. So well, I'll leave that as the first question. The second question I'll get to after you answer that.
So I have a non-technical answer, but from what my understanding on especially on the Montauk branch, actually overall is with PTC, that has caused us to add some buffering with the scheduling because of PTC, especially if you notice everywhere we have a yard or a terminal where trains they seem to go very super slow, like Atlantic Terminal. So that's part of that is with PTC, because PTC it's throughout the system, but in the terminals it's not at the terminals. So like, for example, that caused us to add some buffering there. And then on the Montauk branch, several years ago, we signalized out there. It was dark territory before, and then there was several sidings out there that we used to use the old way of operating, but now using the signaling, all those sidings aren't active now because they're not all signalized. So we actually have less flexibility throughout the branch than we had before, until we can actually signalize and reactivate some of those sidings. So that's another cause of the buffering. So we're not doing it on, we're not doing it for on-time performance. Is more whatever the safety requirements, and we have to operate with the system that's there. So it's in a way the limits causes that.
Well, I appreciate that much, but it still seems to me that if you look at the schedule, so what I can do rather than drag this out is I can send to either you directly or to the office my calculations, which show how the train goes especially slow between I think it's Spionk and West Hampton, And, you know, the schedule itself is just built with all these delays. And maybe you can give a more specific answer on why that's happening.
Right.
And, you know, when I've asked the train crews, I've gotten different answers. Then my other question did pertain to sidings. There's several westbound trains out of Montauk that will be held at just east of Mastic Shirley, as I recall, waiting for the eastbound train. The eastbound train is often late, so that often obviously cascades to making the westbound train late. When you look at the schedule, and I don't pretend to be sophisticated and know everything that's going on, but when you look at the schedule, it looks like if you started running the Montauk train 10 minutes sooner and you held back the westbound train 10 minutes sooner, you held back the eastbound train for 10 minutes, that buys you the 18 minutes that you need to get to double track territory. And you know, maybe it's a little presumptuous of me to try to guess why the schedules do what they do. But it seems to me that there are sometimes solutions that aren't being looked at. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but again, I can email you specific, you know, I'll find some specific train run and point that out to you.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we're putting this off till the next meeting. I do want to just make two other comments. This is probably completely irrelevant, but normally the glazing that you see on the windows, it's usually, I believe, a plastic that sandwiches a sheet of glass. I know from framing paintings and artwork that plastic would cloud up if you used regular window cleaner. There are special cleaners that are used for plastic. I don't know if the railroad is paying attention to that or not, but that was my guess when I see the cloudy windows. So that's just my comment. I don't pretend to know more than that. And the other thing is, sorry I missed the earlier meetings and I'm probably too late, but I do normally or often travel with a bicycle on the Montauk branch. If you wanted me to comment on the experience, explain why I do. And I also remember Brian Peranzo from the January meeting, which I listened to, talking about enforcing the 4 bikes on a train rule. And I can comment on that as being an impossible, it would be sort of absurd, I think, to try to enforce that. And you know, among the examples, what if I am transferring to the Montauk connection at Babylon and 4 people have gotten on at Babylon before me? Are you going to abandon me at Babylon? Coming back west, you have, you know, if you get 4 trains in Montauk, then every time, if you're waiting in Amagansett or Southampton, you're never going to get home. So that's not a, you know, that's one of the several rules that are not enforced and shouldn't be enforced. You know, just like the rule about not walking between cars when the train's in motion. I understand that the trains get crowded, that the Long Island Railroad doesn't have as much equipment and as much capacity as it needs. And I think we need to work out solutions to this, but limiting you know, a train to 4 cars would not, to 4 bikes would not be a good solution. I could say more, but I'll leave it there right now.
All right,
Unless you want me to say more, I could always do that. Just ask questions.
I think we're okay. Anybody else? Going once, going twice? All right, Lisa, any old business that anybody needs to bring up? Any new business anybody needs to bring up?
The old business was changing the meeting to 4:30. Does
Right,
this work
okay.
for everybody?
Yeah, well, there's one particular member that usually got on the train at Hunters Point at 4:30, so, but I guess we missed him this month, but No, 4:30 works. In fact, I have to plead guilty to the fact that I kind of insisted that we moved it to 4 o'clock in the past because the railroad had eliminated one of the trains, and if I missed the 5:51, I'd have to wait till 7:30. This is back when we were doing, you know. So now that that's been eliminated, we got our 6:27 train back. You know, 4:30 is fine, even if we meet in person in the city or in Mineola, it's fine. So no, there's no problem with the 4:30.
Yeah, I was gonna say 4:30 is fine, but if we do go to in person, I think we need to revisit or speak about the time again. Not that it necessarily needs to change, but if we
Yeah.
start in person, we probably need to rediscuss it.
Okay, well, let's look at, I mean, for us, we need to look at the train schedule too, to see what time we get out. Or if we're gonna do 2 locations or how
Right.
that would work.
Yeah, well,
If
Oh.
it continues in this manner, 4:30 is fine with me.
Okay.
Yep.
Would you, if/when/if/then it goes to in person, would you prefer it be earlier or later?
If
4:30
Mineola,
is
go ahead.
whatever gets the biggest. I'm retired now, so I have a lot less restrictions. You know, it's what will get the most members together is what.
For me personally, later is always better, because usually when I have events, if I'm traveling with whatever, they're usually morning events.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if we go to in person, 4:30 or later.
Yeah.
If we start to bring it earlier, I think it won't work for me, and it sounds like Larry either.
We're
Yeah,
gonna
I mean-
invade Hector's office.
That's okay, we can do that. He's got room in the back.
backyard.
I see he's got room
Well,
there.
yeah. The other thing too, to consider is, and again, I'm just looking at it from everybody's point of view, is I like the idea that we have our staff members here. I like the fact that Kara is here. So, you know, I don't like to try and carry it out too much past 5 o'clock. I don't think we have an overtime budget. Unless you give her comp time, you know. And then the same thing with Hector. I don't want, you know, Hector's up to his ass in alligators in his job. So, you know, I don't like to keep him any longer than necessary. But yeah, I mean, within reason, if we have to adjust it a half an hour or whatever, I think we can do a workaround for that. But I wouldn't start the meetings, I think, any later than 5. For right now, let's leave it at 4:30. And then, like I said, we can tweak it. Let's see how things go. And then we can tweak it from there.
Can I just, before we close out,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
response to Stuart's comment, and then it's gonna turn into a question for Hector, because you said the information about the e-bikes or motorized bikes would be coming soon. Does that also include a revision to the current non-motorized bicycle policy that's currently standing that Stuart was speaking about? Not necessarily the four bicycles, but are they creating a new policy for motorized vehicles? Or are they amending the existing bicycle policy?
Yeah, I don't know. We brought it up because of the motorized vehicles and our concerns and the battery operated, you know, lithium batteries and all that other stuff, which is the reason we kind of pushed the issue, and then they said they're working on it.
Well, the kind of how people have been skirting around it is because it says motorized bicycles are not permitted, and people aren't considering them bicycles, they're considering them scooters or mopeds, all these other devices that we see. So I'm curious, the Hector saying it's going to be coming out and shared with us. Is there a new policy for motorized vehicles?
My understanding from the MTA side, the parent organization that's putting together this policy, is it's the lawyers, it's the legal guys who are just trying to, definitions, because you always have someone trying to work around it. So it's the legalities of how they can phrase things and how they can put things, it's like, seriously, guys. But that's my understanding. That's why we don't have a policy right now, is because the lawyers are trying to figure it out.
But at the very least, because it sounds like whatever policy that Hector was referring to before is in its final stages and will be shared with us after it's already created. But I'm curious, is it a new policy Because also, if they come out with a policy for motorized things, I think we also need to relook at the bicycle policy that currently stands.
I haven't seen it because I'm not part of the process, but I think it's an overall policy to incorporate all of this, and it's part of it is to. I think the purpose is to allow more bikes, but then also deal with some of the other issues with the motorized stuff. So they're trying to balance, two different needs, well, three different needs: the commuters that need the seats, the people that want to bring more vehicles onto the trains.
And in fairness to Hector, this is coming from headquarters. This is an umbrella road, it's an MTA thing.
No,
So
I
whatever
understand.
Whatever policy they come up with, it's going to affect us, it's going to affect Metro North. It might even affect the subways, 'cause I've seen guys with motorized vehicles on subways, especially delivery guys.
We all
Grubhub
saw it
like-
that day. We saw it that day in Jamaica.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Especially, they're also on the elevators and they don't have courtesy when they see a wheelchair, walker, or even a baby stroller getting on the elevator, and they know to slow down and show some courtesy, because there was a baby stroller almost got hit by a bicycle at Atlantic Terminal, and thank God MTA police did stop them and said, "What do you think you're doing?"
Yeah, that's why I'm just
I was
I'm
hit
just
by
worried
one of
that the
those
policy is going to
motorized
come out.
bikes in the elevator.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just part of, that's the Courtesy Matters campaign that I think needs to go into play
Yeah.
there, but I'm worried more about this bicycle or moped policy is gonna come out. And we're still gonna have suggestions or feedback to give, because it seems like it's moving forward without input.
Well, even if they do, and we're gonna fight to get our 2 cents in before they make anything official. But even if they do, I mean, we'll push back and say, hey, nice policy, but you need to refine it even further. So we'll definitely bring this up, and like I said, Lisa speaks at all, or one of the staff members speaks at all the committee meetings. We always have a comment to make at the combined LIRR Metro North committee meeting. So no, this is something we're focusing on. We're going to stay on top of this because it's a concern to a lot of riders. And once we get ridership back a little more, we get another 10%, 15% ridership back. Yeah, it's gonna create a crowding problem.
Yeah, and I think to Stuart's comment about my comment, if ridership's down, then there's more space for bicycles to be on, but if ridership continues to increase, then
As people come back to the offices, yep, exactly.
And then that raises the question of who you should be serving, who the railroad should be serving, and what policy makes sense in the greater community. You do want to encourage bicycle use, multimodal transportation. On the Montauk branch, I often see people getting on someplace in the Hamptons and off at, say, Mastic Shirley with their bikes and sometimes motorized vehicles. It seems to me that you want to encourage that, even though I understand why this is a problem. Similarly, for me, when I used to go out during the height of rush hour, people would bring their bikes on because they wanted to get their bike out to the Hamptons on a weekend. That seems pretty reasonable to me, just as the people who bring in oversized luggage on wheelies, that can't fit in the overhead or under the seat. We all kind of squeeze in there, and as rude as the experience on the Long Island Railroad can be, it's sort of interesting how we all cooperate. At least that's my experience when we've got luggage and bicycles and everything else. But yes, there was when the new dual level cars came on, I remember that the railroad was looking at using one of the old coaches to tag on the back of the train and use as a bike car. They decided it wasn't technically feasible, but there might have to be some concept of that. And the last thing I'll just mention is that, on Metro North, I believe they actually have hooks for the bikes is that not true? We tested, years ago, I was part of a group that tested that out, but I don't take Metro North now, so I don't know if it's.
No. I mean,
Don't let your-
ultimately, the cars in any of these rails were not designed for
No.
oversized luggage or for bicycles, and that's ultimately the problem. So
Yeah.
luggage is going to go where people should be sitting, or luggage is going to go where there should be customers with limited mobility. Bicycles always go where there's customers with limited mobility. It's not like a luggage where somebody's going to put it on a seat and take it away. It becomes a safety issue or an issue for those with limited mobility.
I
And
think that
Stuart, we're
Metro
also
North,
talking
blocking
about
pathways,
motorized, the gasoline powered motorcycles that are going on the trains these
those
days.
are never allowed.
Right.
Right. The Metro North does have a car that has a special decal on it that I believe has a special way to store bicycles. But those are the M8s, I believe, and they're few and far between. So they're not, and I think they're similar to the way that Amtrak allows bicycles to go, but they're not on the Long Island Railroad. And
Okay, well, I would just encourage that. I recognize the legitimacy of what Brian is talking about. I think you need to recognize the legitimacy of what I'm saying too. You know, if I can't bring my bike on the train, I'm going by car. And, you know, the railroad should be getting people like me out of the car. You know, it should be serving people that don't have cars, and it should be serving people who do have or can use cars, but, you know, you're trying to draw them out of them. So I think, you know, you need to see it from both perspectives.
All
I'm
right.
not opposed to it. I'm just saying there's a rule and it's not enforced.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
but
what I'm saying.
so is the rule. What about the rule about walking between cars when the train
Should
is
be enforced. Rules
Should be enforced.
really?
Should be
So
enforced.
no, well, there's a rule that shouldn't be. You know, you've got 40 minutes between Babylon and Jamaica. And then the logical time, and the bathrooms are in the
Well-
electrics are in every other car. In the diesels, you don't even know where they are.
Well, Stuart, that's the policy for the MTA, and if you really want to fight that battle, you need to go to the MTA, the Long Island Railroad Metro North Committee meeting, and at the public speaking session, and make your voice heard. And you can do that remotely. They're still taking video testimony, so
I'm sorry,
that would be my suggestion as far as that's concerned. If you
I
want a
didn't-
rule change, that's where you got to go. We can't change the rules.
Okay, but I'm just raising the point that that some rules are too absurd to enforce or just unenforceable.
Okay,
And
that's an opinion that you can take to the MTA board. And if you feel that strongly about it, you should. All right, do we have anything else? Everybody good? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Brian, Larry?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, I'll move it. Larry's still here?
are you-
Okay,
So
we're
there's some-
adjourned.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, everybody.
To anybody following the Jewish holidays, Happy New Year and Chag Sameach.
And you too. Thank you.
All right, Ron.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.